I Bet Rivers. I'm Meghan McKeown, and we got a fabulous starting lineup for you tonight, talking all Big Ten hoops. First and foremost, the Rutgers former great Geo Baker is with us. You have the Purdue former great Robbie Hummel also in the house, knowing all things Big Ten. And you have the Field of 68 great Jeff Goodman, everyone's favorite college basketball insider, with us tonight. Are we ready to rock and roll, fellas?
Ready to go.
We got two players in here, and one I don't even know what. So we're ready to go.
Who has a higher
cannot
vertical?
Jump you, Hummel.
Oh God. Okay.
More vertical talk to come between Hummel and Jeff Goodman. But we got a Big Ten preview coming in to this season. We're going to be going over top storylines, league X factors. Where are the guards? Has this become a big man league like completely? Who are your player of the year picks? We got power rankings and much, much more. But let's start off, guys, with storylines. Geo, starting with you, what is your top storyline headed into this year in the Big Ten?
For me, this may surprise some people. Honestly, I got the new look Illinois team. I think they're my biggest storyline right now. I really like the transfers that they got coming in, and Matthew Mayer, Terrence Shannon Jr. I think Coleman Hawkins is going to be a breakout player as well. So I'm really excited to see them play. I think they're going to play a different style than the Big Ten is used to seeing.
Matthew Mayer no longer has his mullet, by the way. So that is something very important to note. He left that in Waco. Robbie, what you got?
I'm going to say, who is the teams that are second through like 9? You know, like I don't know. I think that you could pick any combination of people in those spots. And it's a very strange year for the league. There's a ton of turnover. Indiana's the lone team that returns most of their production. I just think that, you know, when you're filling in your slots in the order of Big Ten finish at the end of the year, it could be a number of different teams. And I think that's going to make for a really exciting season.
I'm going to go with the place where I'm spending all my money right now. And that is Bloomington, Indiana, where my daughter is. And are they for real? Like, I know everybody's got them as a top 10-ish team in the preseason, but they are a team that frankly wasn't great for most of the year last year and had to beat Michigan and Illinois just to get into the first four. And eventually they were blown out by Randy Bennett in St. Mary's in the actual NCAA tournament.
In fairness, that trip was brutal, Jeff.
It was.
That's a brutal turnaround.
But what about the brutal trip that they barely got into the NCAA tournament?
That was brutal as well, yeah.
And we can stick here with Indiana because this is truly a massive storyline. The Hoosiers come in. Everyone's preseason favorite, no matter where you're looking. The Almanacs for the Field of 68's preseason favorite as well. Trayce Jackson-Davis returns. He's the preseason player of the year. Robbie, what makes him – why is there so much hype around him right now?
Well, he's a big-time athlete. He's one of those guys that stuck through. He's now in his fourth year playing college basketball. I think for Trayce Jackson-Davis, you know, he hasn't been able to maybe showcase the ability to step out and shoot, and that's maybe limited his ceiling. But at the end of the day, you know what you're going to get from him. He loves to get to that left hand. I thought he was a lot better defensively. I thought he was a much better leader last year. But if he's going to take the next step and even play professionally at a high level and stick professionally at a high level, the shot making has got to improve. You know, it just, you have to be able to spread the floor in today's game. And that would help Indiana astronomically if he could spread the floor. And I think that's a big question mark for him. But when you look at this Indiana team in general, shooting again is the question. And it's not just Trayce Jackson-Davis. It's, you know, Race Thompson. Can Miller Kopp be more consistent? Does Xavier Johnson, who was he's more of a slasher, penetrator, get to the paint, play pick and roll. Their best shooter was Parker Stewart, and he's no longer on the roster. So there are question marks, like Jeff said, but they returned so much of their production. They've got a really good freshman class. And I think because of that, Indiana is the surefire pick for me at number one. That doesn't mean they're going to finish number one, but right now on paper, they should be the top team in the league because of who they bring back.
Yeah, I like who they're bringing back as well. I agree. And I think that, you know, you have to assume that Trayce Jackson-Davis has been working on his outside game. You have to assume that Race Thompson is going to improve as a three-point shooter. Same thing with Xavier Johnson. I like the freshman that they have coming in. Hood Schifino.
He's awesome.
He's going to be a really good player. But looking at it from a player's perspective, right? For the guys who are returning in the Big Ten, nobody's scared of Indiana. Nobody's looking at Indiana like Oh man, we got to get ready to play Indiana, right? Because this is a team that hasn't really been in the top half of the Big Ten for the past couple of years, right? So I think you have to look at it in that sense too, where, a lot of people on the outside are hyping them up, but for the people who are coming back, Indiana, for me at Rutgers, when we were playing Indiana, we knew we were going in with a win. Like that was our mindset. So
That's crazy. I mean, think
from
about that. Yeah, like that. We're talking about them as a preseason top 10 team. And you're right. You're saying like they don't have that intimidation factor. They've got to earn that this year.
Exactly. I do think they're going to be really good this year. I definitely give them their respect in that sense. But just from a player's perspective, no one is looking at them like, damn, Indiana is the top dog.
They have so many returners coming back, which is why there is so much hype surrounding them. But Jeff, everyone's talking about freshman Jalen Hood-Schifino. What does he bring to the team?
He's big. He knows how to play. He can pass it. He's not a great shooter though. So that's the one thing is, to me, obviously their biggest need, they were really good defensively last year, but their biggest need, like Robbie said, is shooting. Yeah. And Hood-Schifino is not a guy that's going to go out there and shoot 38% from three as a freshman. They've got to do it collectively. And X has got to be the guy to me. His shot's funky, but it went in last year. It did. It went in, and it's got to do that again. And if he can shoot high 30s and everybody else can be a little bit better, Tamar Bates has got to be better.
He can be the X factor, Jeff. Tamar Bates can be a guy that I think takes that jump and can be a guy that makes shots from the perimeter.
And speaking of shot makers, like Indiana shot 33% as a team from three last season. Not fantastic. Miller Kopp comes in. He's supposed to be the guy, the shooter. What does he need to do in order to be that guy, Robbie?
Make some shots.
Fair enough. He has to be a maker.
He needs to be a shot maker. And we saw it in spurts last year against Syracuse. I want to say at 28, at Purdue, end of the season, made shots, got to his one dribble pull up because he had made a couple threes. You just need him to spread the floor. That is what you need. Miller Kopp needs to make threes and guard his yard. He needs to be able to stay in front of his man. That is a huge thing for Indiana if he can do that.
I think he's definitely going to be better than what he looked like last year. If you look back at his years at Northwestern, like he was always at the top of the scout when we were playing against Northwestern. Really good player, really good shot maker. I think at his worst, he's going to be a lot better 3-point shooter this year than he was last year.
That's just going to help Indiana so much more, especially with the front court that they're bringing back this season. In a couple months from now, when we're sitting here talking about Indiana, will they live up to the hype that they've received so far in the preseason, Jeff?
I don't know. I mean, listen, the one thing I'll say is
soft answer. Don't let him off like that, Megan. Press him to the fire.
Here's why I'll say yes.
Aren't you on the board?
Because I'm paying tuition. Because I'm paying tuition.
Nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with the $50,000 I got to pay. It's because I don't think the Big Ten is all that overpowering this year. I think there's a lot of parity in the league. There's no other great teams. We're going to get to it, right? The Michigan States that are generally the team that you do fear, Geo.
Yep.
And you don't right now. They're not overwhelming. So I think Indiana, because they return a lot and they've got maybe the best player in the league, certainly one of them in Trayce Jackson-Davis. And I love Trayce. Can I just say like how refreshing Trayce Jackson-Davis is from a standpoint? Last year, they beat Illinois in the Big Ten tournament, which basically punches their ticket. And he gets up on the podium and he basically, where a lot of players aren't, he was completely honest. And he says, because he was really good against Kofi that game, really good. And he said, last time we played Kofi, he basically ate my lunch and I haven't been the same since. It just absolutely crushed me mentally. Like how many kids would actually say that and be honest about it? I love Trayce, love him.
I just want to see him go hard every single possession. I think that there are times where he does take plays off. So can he consistently go hard and live up to that preseason player of the year hype? So Indiana going to be a fun team to watch this season. Let's pivot to Illinois. Geo Baker's top storyline headed into this preseason preview. Why is Illinois a team on your watch? Listen, Kofi Cockburn is gone. In fact, like 10 players are gone. Their top 5 scorers are gone. This Illinois team, if you're a fan, you need a roster for the first couple of games just to like make sure you got the numbers and the names all correct here. It's going to be a different style of play, but what are you expecting to see out of Illinois, Geo?
I mean, I really like the defensive versatility that they have, with Matthew Meyer, Terrence Shannon Jr., Coleman Hawkins. I think they're going to be able to switch a lot of ball screens. It's going to be definitely going to be very different. But I think the thing about Coach Underwood is he's already shown he can adjust. Like, if you remember back like a few years back, they played a completely different defense before Kofi came, right? Where they were all completely over their man, right? And he was able to adjust when Kofi came in, change the entire defense. So I think anyone who thinks that he's not going to be able to adjust again is wrong, right? And I think that I'm just really excited about their team. Matthew Meyer obviously has already won a national championship. Terrence Shannon, I think they won 30 games last year. So they're bringing winning players. And I think Coleman Hawkins is going to be really good. I mean, super athletic, can shoot the ball, very versatile. So I'm really excited to see them play. And I really like the freshman point guard too. I was watching a lot of his film. I know he's coming off of a torn ACL, I think, but the way he just moves the ball, he's very unselfish.
Sky Clark, and I know, Jeff, you had an opportunity to see him play. Why do the Illini trust him to potentially be the starter with the ball in his hands?
So I think he'll be the starter, but what Brad told me was that he's not necessarily going to have the ball in his hands a ton. They're not going to run it like a traditional point guard. They're going to have different guys initiating offense. Yep. You're going to see Terrence Shannon. I think he's going to be their best player and leading scorer. He's a culture guy that just wasn't really featured at Texas Tech, which nobody is offensively. And he was also hurt a lot last year. So I think Shannon's going to be great. Meyer, it's going to be interesting to see what he does. They've got some good freshmen. As you said, Sky Clark, probably the most pivotal one, but they got a kid, Ty Rogers, who's an absolute killer, like just tough. He's not going to put up huge offensive numbers, but I think every game he's going to get like 8 or 10 points, 5 or 6 boards, couple assists, couple steals, and just give them toughness and versatility.
Coach Underwood also talked about how much faster this team's going to play. They want to try to score within 7 seconds on the shot clock. Robbie, what kind of advantage does that give Illinois in the Big Ten?
With their personnel, a huge one. I think what Geo said about them defensively is totally accurate. And him bringing up I don't know what you even call it. It was like the suicide blitz defense.
Yeah, I don't know what that was.
Being so far up your line. And I don't think it will be like that, but I think they might throw in some full court pressure. I think, like Geo said, they're going to switch 5 ways and they're going to make it really uncomfortable to run offense. And in transition, they're going to let those guys get out and be in the open court. Matthew Meyer, I had a lot of Baylor games his freshman, sophomore year when I was doing more Big 12. And there's not many dudes where you're watching in warm-ups and he's taking off from just inside the free throw line, cocking it back and just hammering it. He is that type of athlete. Now, the question for me is he healthy? And I think with Matthew Meyer, sometimes the question also is how interested is he? If he's engaged, he's really good. I saw him in the NCAA tournament in Fort Worth last year, and he was their best player against Carolina. Almost brought him back. They were down huge. Terrence Shannon, I think, is going to have a terrific year. RJ Melendez is a guy that could certainly break out. I really like his game.
How important do you think the Luke Goody injury is out? Probably at least a month
matters.
and a half.
He's a shot maker. He's another guy with size that hurts him.
Ultra guy too.
Geo mentioned Coleman Hawkins. That to me is going to be incredibly interesting. Last year, if you watch Coleman play, when they were playing a directional school, he looked great. Early in the season, they're playing people that aren't very good. Oh. He's a little loose with it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can get away with that, but against good people. Now, I'm really interested to see what Coleman Hawkins is adding in this offseason. He could end up making that big jump, but I don't think he'll
make a big one. I think he'll make an incremental one.
I just think when you're playing good people, I don't trust him yet.
Yep.
Yeah.
When you say he's not going to make a big jump, is it going to be a Goodman-sized vertical jump or a Robbie Hummel-sized vertical jump when it comes down to it?
Man, Jeff, first of all, Jeff just hating on the work that Coleman Hawkins has put in this summer.
I'm just saying, people got him as like this big breakout guy who's going to go from averaging 5 to 15. I think it's going to go from 5 to 10.
Look, his skill set can make you salivate over him.
Sure,
I mean, with his size, and you watch him against certain teams last year. I did their first game of the year, and I was like, man, Coleman Hawkins is bringing the ball up because I think Trent Frazier was out. And all their guards were hurt. So they were playing Coleman Hawkins at the 5 defensively, and he was bringing the ball up. There's not many guys that can do that in college basketball. But at the same time, man, when it got to Big Ten play and you had to grind it out and you had to be physical and you had to be disciplined, that's where there was a lot of fall off there for me.
How much credit can you give him defensively? Because he does provide that switchability now, because he is athletic, can guard on the perimeter. And now Illinois can do a lot of different things on that end of the floor.
Yeah, playing him at the 5 compared to Kofi, it's a much different look. Now, there's pros and cons to Kofi moving on, but with Coleman Hawkins, yes, every ball screen doesn't have to be drop coverage. You can now switch. You can hard hedge. You can blitz. You can do a lot of different things with him there. But I mean, that's a different animal right there. And I think we're going to get into that. Is the Kofi departure good, bad, indifferent, whatever? But Coleman Hawkins does give them the ability to be versatile defensively.
Well, let's take it there, Robbie, while we're on the subject. Geo, Kofi Coburn, a legendary player for Illinois, is going to go down as one of the all-time greats. What are the pros of him being gone, or what are the cons of him leaving the program? Geo, did we lose you?
Say that again, guys. Sorry.
Man, he's got other things too, multitasking at his finest. Kofi Coburn.
The fire alarm was going off in my building.
Fire alarm. Hey,
stay
Gotta get out of
safe. Don't risk it all for this podcast.
Yeah, to risk it all.
I was muted though. I was good. I was muted.
Yeah, we did.
You guys didn't hear it going on?
Oh, we didn't hear the fire alarm.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. Shout out to the guys doing the production then. They muted me real quick.
Fire alarm. Okay, so here's a fire drill. Kofi Coburn, pros and cons of him leaving Illinois.
I think there's definitely some cons to it. Obviously, I mean, a guy like Kofi Coburn coming in, just a big guy down low. You can always feed him. No matter what you're going to get from him, you're going to get a double every night. I think the cons for Illinois without Kofi Coburn, I mean, the pros without him is ball screen coverage. Like for us, whenever we played against Illinois, we always knew Kofi was going to be in a deep drop. Like, so for
Geo Baker, pull up 15 feet.
Pull up, exactly. And it was honestly automatic. We didn't really need to run much offense. We just knew we had to get Kofi into ball screen action. So I think without that, right, they're going to be able to guard a lot better this year, I think.
I like the fact, honestly, they're a better regular season team with Kofi. But in the tournament, I like their chances to go to the second weekend, because I think, again, defensively, you've got the switchability. You saw how certain teams can do it and certain teams can't take advantage of Kofi, right? You need bigs to be able to pull him out a little bit. You need to be able to put him in ball screens. Most teams can do that now. So I honestly think they have a better chance of going deeper in the tournament without Kofi Coburn. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but I think it's true.
All right, you guys hit the pick and roll defense. You hit the switching pressure defense. I will say one less foul or poor foul shooter on the floor, because he was a 62% career free throw shooter. End of game problem. I think the biggest thing you guys didn't say was that for drivers, the lane now opens up, right? For that length, you now have the ability to get into the paint, and there's not a 7-foot man parked on the block. Now the cons, I mean, let's be real. This dude averaged 20 and 10. How many people in this podcast have averaged 20 and 10 in the Big Ten? None of us.
Right.
While shooting almost 60% from the field last season, like Jeff said, you could punk people with his size. And this is a 2-time consensus All-American. I mean, like, that's pretty crazy to be like, are there pros and cons to him not
he
being?
He did it against men in the league. Like, that's the thing.
Yeah, with Zach Edey and
right.
Hunter Dickinson and Trace Jackson Davis, and also the physical intimidation aspect of it, where it's like, all right, this dude's enormous. He can physically punk us.
Yeah.
But with that being said, it is a valid conversation. Is this a pros or cons deal? So I go both ways. I'm not sure. I mean, I think Kofi Coburn is a great player. I wish I averaged 20 and 10. That would be that's balling. But I don't know pros and cons. It's really fascinating to talk about.
Painter might wish the same, Robbie.
He probably does. He
wanted him to rebound a little bit more. Robbie was a little soft.
That was a good rebound.
Details. Pivoting, staying with the big man. Let's go to Michigan. Hunter Dickinson. In my opinion, he's my pick for preseason player of the year. Could have been. Ooh. I think he will be eventually. I just love the way he dominates in a game. His body at 7'1", he's really strong. He's aggressive. He's got a great motor, and he can score in a lot of different ways. But somebody else not named Hunter Dickinson needs to step up consistently night in and night out and score for Michigan. Geo, who's that going to be?
I think it's got to be Lewin. This is a point guard. He's got a lot of veteran, a lot of experience. But the thing about him, though, is that he hasn't really played against any great competition yet. I don't really see it from those other guys that are returning. I don't see it from Buffkin. I don't see it from Terrence Williams. And they've always done well when they have that veteran point guard come in, a grad transfer or something along those lines. So I think that he should be the guy, but it's just, can he? That's the one thing that, I'm not sure, right? There's nothing to really go off of. He hasn't played against anyone good in like 2 years, I think it is.
Yeah, Llewellyn came from Princeton, good shooter. The offense really wasn't run through him at Princeton. It was run through their big. So it'll be interesting.
Say his name, Joe.
Jalen Llewellyn.
No. They're big. They're big.
Oh, Tosan.
What's Tosan's last name?
I can't say his last name.
But it's a hell of some insider you are. I don't even know the players' names.
I'm not going to screw up his last name. Anyway, Llewellyn is key. He is key because, again, we don't know what he's going to be able to do. Is he a guy capable of running the team? Like Mike Smith was so good 2 years ago for them.
But the pieces around him were awesome.
Right.
People don't talk about this. Dude's playing with 4 NBA players, and Devontae Jones didn't have that luxury.
No, he did not. He did not. So you're right. And Llewellyn doesn't have that luxury. Let's be honest. Like, this is a team full of unknowns.
Yep.
Jet Howard comes in as a highly touted freshman. He's 6'8". He could shoot the hell out of it. But you guys know, as freshmen, you can be an elite shooter, but you may not be an elite shooter as a college freshman.
Yep.
Ask John Diebler. John Diebler, elite shooter, did not have a good freshman year shooting the ball. Interesting to look at with Jalen Llewellyn. They played 3 games last year against high major competition. South Carolina, he had 16, 5 of 9. Minnesota, 7 of 21 from the field, 19 points. Oregon State ended up going for 14. So not a real high sample size there.
Solid.
Oregon State, he was 5 of 17.
That being said, however,
it was volume. It was volume last year in his 3 games against high major comp. I have no idea. I saw him play. I did the Asheville tournament last year. I think he's a good player. I have no idea the type of impact.
Can you say Tosan's last name?
I used to be able to. If I looked at it, I think I could. If I looked at it. But with that being said, I agree with Kobe Buffkin. I just worry about him shooting. I don't think he's a great shooter at this point in his career.
Sure.
Joey Baker, transfer from Duke. He's coming off hip surgery. Who knows? That makes that a big question mark. Terrence Williams is a guy that I think has the potential to do it. He did it a couple times last year, but the consistency was not even close.
Yeah, he's not a scorer. He's a glue guy, isn't he?
No, I agree. I don't know. I don't know who steps up with Hunter, who is an All-American level player, and comes with him. And Michigan is the ultimate question mark. There are so many pieces here that are freshmen or transferring up, or Joey Baker transferring in and he's hurt. So I don't even know how you evaluate Michigan.
Got to see.
Geo could not have shaken his head harder when you just mentioned Terrence Williams. So,
hey, you know what? I'm biased because I saw him against Buffalo last year in the first game of the year, and he balled. He literally won the game.
That's fair. Recency bias in a sense.
It was the first game of the year.
I mean, at the time it was recency bias, and it's just continued on. Back to Llewellyn for a second, though, the Princeton transfer. I do think there is a benefit to having somebody who has a high basketball IQ, and you have a player that played in the Princeton offense, understands how to play in a read and react system, and that's somebody who you want playing with somebody as dominant as Hunter Dickinson. So I'm curious to see how that chemistry starts to form throughout this season. And I think it's something that we could see become a huge benefit for Michigan down the stretch.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, this is a team that, again, like Juwan Howard's done a pretty damn good job there since taking over. Now, he did inherit some pretty good players from Beeline, and the culture was strong and all that, but he's done a good job of keeping it together. Last year, they weren't great during the regular season, but they went to the Sweet 16. 2 years ago, they were really good in the regular season. Went to the Elite Eight. They were close to getting the Final Four. So, I like the culture here, and I love the fact that Hunter he's been able to step out a little bit, and he'll get better. Like last year, he did it, and this year I think he'll be better. As Gio was saying about like Race Thompson, he did a little bit. Well, Trace he hasn't shot the 3 at all. So like Trace this year, it's going to be kind of a completely new deal. Hunter's gotten used to it already.
I thought also, Jeff, Hunter took any type of feedback he got last year, and he knocked it out of the park. He worked on his right-hand jump hook. He started shooting perimeter jumpers and made them. He really made strides last year, I thought, even though he was great as a freshman. He better player as a sophomore. There was no doubt about that.
Did you hate Hunter, Gio? Because I feel like everybody in the league hates Hunter Dickinson because he loves to talk trash.
Yeah, no, I like that.
You like it?
I like players who talk trash. He messed up Cliff on one play last year, and he actually started talking, like joking with one of the fans. But like that's the stuff that gets me going as a player. So I really enjoy it. And I talk to Hunter all the time. He's a good dude. So
it's fun. Like to me, that's what college is about. As long as it's in good fun,
exactly.
Like why not? I mean, come on.
Gio, who was the best trash talker in the Big Ten last year?
Oh, best trash talker in the Big Ten last year. I mean, we're already talking about Hunter. Hunter's probably the best off the top of my head. DeMonte Williams as well. He was a really good trash
Illinois
talker.
Could chirp.
He really knew how to get under your skin for sure. Maybe even Tony Perkins as well from Iowa. He was
really
good.
Really.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, these are all good little insider tips we're getting from our very own Geo Baker here. Let's go to Ohio State next, Michigan's rival. So let's just keep on moving it right along. A lot of potential upsides with this team. Yes, they lose EJ Liddell and Malachi Branham, two of their top scorers. They return Zed Key, the only starter to return, averaged 8 and nearly 6 last season. What can we expect to see from this Ohio State team? Robbie, they went to the portal and did some damage.
Yes, they did. They're another team where you're like, how the heck does this team fit together? I have no idea. Isaac Likely is weathered from the Big 12. He's a guy that can put up numbers in a variety of ways. He's a really good rebounder. Isaac Likely really rebounds the ball well for a guard. He's 6'5", he's got good size. He can make plays for other people. Not a good perimeter shooter. That is where he really struggles. Bruce Thornton, a guy that I think is probably going to play some point guard. Sean McNeil transfers in from West Virginia. He is a perimeter shooter. Justice Suing is going to be really interesting. If he's healthy, that would be a huge addition because he's a proven guy in this league. He's got really good size. You can play him at the 3 or the 4. I think Zed Key is a known commodity, plays his role, can score on the block. I think Ohio State is a solid team, but again, not a roster that blows you away. I don't know. Another team where you're like, I have no idea. I really don't until I see him play. I don't know.
I definitely agree. I think I don't know. There's just a lot of question marks, right? Which you could say for, like we were talking about earlier, for pretty much every team. But, when you have a freshman point guard coming in like Thornton, you just don't really know exactly what you're going to get from it. And I think he's going to get a big bulk of the minutes right away at the point guard spot. Looking at a guy like Zed Key, he's always been, like you said, very solid, but now he's going to have that starting center role. And who is backing him up?
Freshman.
A freshman. Exactly. So, there's just a lot of question marks coming in. And if Zed Key gets in foul trouble, that freshman big man, I was watching his tape. He jumps at a lot of basketballs. Like he's going to get in some foul trouble too very early. He's going to learn fast, how the Big Ten is with their bigs.
Yeah, I mean, Felix Okpara is different than Zed Key. He gives him something different, like you said, a shot blocker, but he's raw. He's raw at this point. Thornton, I've seen play multiple times, their point guard, and I like him. Like he's steady, he's strong. He's not going to blow you away, but I think he'll be good. And I love the kid Bryce Sensabaugh. He's like a 6'6", 230-pound wing that just wired to score. Holtman compared him to David Roddy, the kid at Colorado State, a little bit because of how he's built. But he can really score. They're probably a year away.
Jeff, this was the number 1 recruiting class in the Big Ten, correct?
Yeah, but a lot of times that's based on numbers, and I'm not talking about
and volume.
Yes. Like people are hitting me right now. The Texas Tech idiots. Fans are hitting me on the fact that they have the best transfer class coming in.
Clip that, please. Clip that.
Yes, you can clip that. That's fine. That's fine. You clip that and put it out there too. But part of it is due to volume. They bring in 5 guys. Well, Kerwin Walton averaged like 3 a game. Like come on, people. Anyway, this is a Big Ten show. So I don't want to get off track.
Oh, I was going to let you keep on going. You had the platform. Go off about the Red Raiders if you want. We know what your Christmas Hanukkah gifts are going to be this season from us.
Very true.
But sticking with this Ohio State team, who can Chris Holtman look to consistently night in and night out to score in double figures?
I don't know who it's going to be. I mean, I think they're going to be balanced, and they're going to have to be. Sensabaugh is the one that can be that guy, but it's going to take some time. The one thing with Holtman is, think about this, guys. Who's the best point guard Chris Holtman's ever had as a head coach from his days at Butler to Ohio State? He hasn't really had a big-time point guard ever. So give him credit. Like, he's actually got a guy that Thornton might be as good as just about anybody. And now suing is the key. Like, can suing get back?
I thought DJ Carton was going to be really good, but then obviously some of the other issues, talent-wise, he was as talented as probably any. I'll go Zed Key. I'll say Zed Key will average like 10 or 11 or 12 points a game.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
And he's that traditional back to the basket kind of player, though, and you can dump it inside to him. You can compete against some of the bigger bodies in this league, but can he defend without fouling to be reliable in that sense?
That's a very valid question. I think if they're going to be successful, it's going to have to be by committee, and Justice Suing is going to have to be healthy. If that's the case, then they can be a team that finishes in the top 5 or 6 in the Big Ten. And
not just healthy from an offensive standpoint, but defensively, he led the team in steals with 29 when he was healthy a couple of seasons ago. So that's somebody they're going to need to come back healthy. They got to send some of the good medicine to Columbus this season to get them ready to rock and roll. All right, Michigan State. What can we expect to see from Sparty? Again, I feel like we're broken records here. This is a team that team looks somewhat similar. There's a lot to build on with players that are back from last year's roster, but what can we expect to see with so many key players gone, Jeff?
Well, I actually think Michigan State, at least, you kind of know to some degree what you're dealing with, right? Izzo didn't go to the portal. You know, he brought in some guys, some freshmen. Their point guard play is probably, and we'll go through the top point guards here in a little bit in the league, but at least you know what you're dealing with, right? Hoggard and Tyson Walker and Izzo. The one thing he told me last year about Walker, and I saw him play a couple times in person here at Northeastern, was he felt like because Walker didn't sit out because the rule changed, he felt like it made it so much harder. If Tyson Walker had a year to learn the system at Michigan State, he would have been really good last year. Instead, he really, really struggled. Didn't know when to shoot, didn't know when to pass. You know, he and Hoggard got better as the season went on. Again, they're good. They're good. They're just not overwhelming by any means. And you look at what they've done the last 2 years. They're 20-20 in the league over the last 2 years. Michigan State, they could go 500 again. It wouldn't surprise me.
It's funny you said that. Sorry, Megan. It's funny you said that about Tyson Walker sitting out, because Izzo said the same thing at media day, and he said he has been so much more comfortable coming into this season because he has that year under his belt, and he looked more comfortable end of the year. I mean, he made the game winner against Purdue. He had a couple of games where he scored in the 20s. But I think when you look at this group, it's very similar in a sense to Indiana, where you're like, all right, they bring a good core back, not as much as IU does, but at the same time, you also think, well, this team was not all that great last year. Right. So it'll depend on development. Jaden Aiken's foot injury hurts them, because he was the guy where you're looking at, like, can he be the dude that makes the jump and is now that guy in the backcourt that can go get you a bucket? Monty Sissoko is the starting center. I think that's underwhelming for Michigan State standards.
He's a good backup.
Yeah, he is a backup.
He's a good backup. The kid Jackson Kohler is a top recruit, but he's more of a skill guy from everything I've been told.
I got the sense, though, that Sissoko would be the starter.
He probably will be, because he can rebound. He's an Izzo type of player, at least. Like, Kohler's not ready yet. He needs to find, how he loves to have guys that can get in the glass. Yep. He's not going to get out toughed, right?
Regardless of what happens from a toughness standpoint, if they don't take care of the ball better, it doesn't matter. They have been terrible turning the basketball over. And honestly, Malik Hall needs to be a guy where he's got to show up every night. Like, that dude is talented enough to be an all-league player, and there's no question in my mind about that. But you have games where you watch him and you're like, that dude is all-league. And then you have games where you watch him and you're like, he's taking 2 shots. And if you take 2 shots, you haven't even given yourself a chance. Yeah. I'd rather him go 0 for 13. And at least you're like, well, at least you tried. Like, you're that good of a player. He needs to get 10, 11 shots a game.
Gio, you were talking about, you think the same thing?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. But, I think, at the end of the day, we talk about all these different question marks. They have a very solid backcourt coming back, right? Like AJ Hoggard and Tyson Walker are going to be a very good backcourt at the end of the day in the Big Ten. And then you look at Malik Hall, a guy who I honestly think is going to take that next step up. And the last thing is you should never doubt Tom Izzo. Like that's true. Like I'm never going to doubt Tom Izzo. I think he just has that aura around him where, again, you like, damn, we're going to play at Michigan State. It's a tough place to play too. So I think they're going to have a good team. They have a good core coming back. And, these are guys who know what it takes, right? They know what it takes to win the Big Ten. Obviously they haven't had that same success that Michigan State is used to, but Tom Izzo is going to have them ready to play every single game.
Well, Tom Izzo has them ready to play a gauntlet of a non-conference schedule. Listen to this. November 11th, they're playing Gonzaga. 11/15, Kentucky. November 18th, Villanova. November 20th, Alabama. November 30th, Notre Dame. I mean, my goodness, can you imagine being an assistant coach and having to put together the scouts back to back to back for this?
This is what's good for college basketball, though. This is like, I love Izzo for this because, again, too many coaches that have job security play a bunch of buy games and garbage games and don't play, especially when you have these long contracts. Like Calipari's doing it now, obviously playing Gonzaga, playing Indiana, but like all these guys that have big time contracts and have job security should be playing these non-conference games more. And I know they complain, well, we got 20 game league schedule, this, that, and the other. Come on, enough. It's good for the sport.
Well, and after the Bama game, they play the winner or loser of UConn and Oregon at PKI. Like, that is an insane.
How do you like that?
But you know what? Why would you not schedule maybe not to this extent, because you could get your team beaten down with this, but playing high major teams only helps you. Playing bye games against teams with the 300 KenPom does not help you. It can only hurt you.
Gio, as a player, how do you get up for these back-to-back games? But it's against the best in the country.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be super difficult for them, but at the end of the day, it's going to help them come March, right? It's going to help them come late February. It's going to help them when they're playing in the Big Ten, playing against some of these other, big teams. For me as a player, we never really played a great non-conference schedule.
You did
no. I can't really speak from experience.
You had the 300 non-conference.
Yeah, I was hearing you guys saying, I was waiting for one of you guys to be like, Gio, what about Rutgers?
Oh, it was terrible every year. Pike's got to step it up. But again, I get it. He's finally got his big contract. He's got job security. So Pike, if you're listening, start playing some dudes in the non-conference. Come on, Gio wants it too.
100%.
The tip from Jeff Goodman. Well, Rutgers did go to the NCAA tournament last season, as did Purdue. And it's a team that, again, lost some of its core, but it returned Zach Edey, who could be one of the best post players in the country. Robbie, what are we going to see from this Purdue team? Are they a contender for the Big Ten title?
Yeah, I think they will be right there. And now it depends on their guard play. But if we start with the front court, there might not be a team. I don't think there's a team in the Big Ten, maybe not even in college basketball, it's going to have the depth at the 4 and the 5 that Purdue is going to have with Zach Edey, Caleb Furst, Mason Gillis, and Trey Coffin-Wren. That's 4 really, really good players. The question marks, though, for the team are the backcourt. Is Brandon Newman a guy that can maybe get back to his freshman year form where he's making shots, defending? The point guard position is totally in flux. Braden Smith, I know they're really high on him, but he's a freshman. David Jenkins transfers in from Utah. I think Fletcher Loyer is going to play a lot at the 2. So they're going to depend on 2 freshmen in that backcourt. That's going to be that makes that puts a question mark on you. But with that front court, it does give you a chance. You can throw it to Zach Edey and you can get baskets. Jeff is being a hater.
It's a guards game. Like, you're not winning with
it's a guards game and it's a bigs league this year. What we're talking about the Big Ten, are we not?
I still think the differentiation.
What did the almanac say?
Listen, I know the almanac. Listen,
who wrote the almanac?
The almanac right here.
The almanac say?
It says the year of the big. The year of the big.
Paper copy. You got the paper copy.
And if you want to buy it, it's in the link in bio below here on the YouTube channel.
Right. It took a full toner cartridge to print this baby out. All right, full toner, like $75.
So do you not even believe what you write, or like I've read that crap? And you're like, now you're telling me about how we don't have any guards. Well, all you've written about is bigs.
You're going to play 2 guards, 2 freshman guards together.
They've got Ethan Morton out there, Brandon Newman. I'm not saying all the time. Ethan Morton's a solid player. Brandon Newman can be a solid piece. I think Purdue is going to have a good year, honestly.
Jeff, when was the last time Purdue had like an elite point guard though?
Lewis Jackson.
Lewis Jackson.
He wasn't elite, but he was a good, really good college player.
Really good player.
I mean, they haven't really.
He made Robbie Hummel who he is, basically.
You're
not old enough.
Point guard in the last recent years, and they've still managed to be at the top of the league almost every year.
Yeah.
Right?
Listen, in Painter I trust. That's what I will say.
After all this shit, now we're gonna hear in Painter I trust.
I do.
God.
Goodman did put him as the best X's and O's coach in the Big Ten in the Almanac.
That's true.
100%.
Well, he actually believes half of the shit he writes. Good job, Jeff. You're 50%. That's terrific.
Listen, all I know is I will pay Zach Edey. I'll pay you, Rob. I will pay you $200 if we go down in practice and you try one-on-one to guard Zach Edey. $200.
I'm 33 years old. Why would I subject myself?
$500.
For 1,000, I'll do it.
And we will live stream it.
We don't need a third tournament from Robbie.
I gotta see that.
The good news is if you can't move or jump, it's really hard to blow your knee out.
These are good health tips from Robbie Hummel.
Yes.
The one thing I love about Matt Painter is that he takes so much pride in recruiting players that want to stay in college for 3 or 4 years. And I think that's been a formula for success for him, which is not something that's necessarily shown to be super successful in college basketball as a whole, because this truly is the era of one and dones. But yet he's found success recruiting and developing players. And Jeff, how hard is it to find, with this generation now, people who are patient enough to go to a school, develop, work on their game, and stay patient for their time to come?
Yeah, there was a reason he didn't get Nigel Pack, right? He got outbid for him for $400,000 a year by Miami. That's Matt Painter. He's not going to give on his principles. He's not. He's not going to get away from the players that have made Purdue and him successful. That's the one thing I always respect about Matt Painter. Pikel's the same way. Those guys they're ball coaches at their core, and there's no bullshit about them. And that's what you got to love about both of them. They're going to be straight shooters.
100%.
I think both those guys are sorry, Gio. Go ahead, Joe.
I was going to say I have a ton of respect for Coach Painter. I think even just from like an outside perspective, you can just tell that he truly cares about the guys. And, I feel like every year he's going to get the best out of his team. Like every year, what you're going to get from Purdue. You're going to get convoluted plays and then a big man down low where you're going to find him. And obviously Zach Edey right now is one of the best returning players. I think he's going to be a beast down low. And any of those guys, Brandon Newman, Ethan Morton, one of those guys is going to be the one coming off, 3 ball screens, three down screens. And right, no, seriously though, they have like 50 different plays. I remember I would always try to be the guy to like call out the other team's plays. I would call it out, and Coach Painter would be looking at me laughing. He's like, "You don't know what we're running right now." You're like, "Absolutely right. I have no idea what you guys are running, but I'm still going to call it out." But that's what they're going to have, right? So as long as those guys are making shots, they're going to get open. They're going to get open looks. So it's just up to them. They're going to make shots. And then Zach Edey's obviously going to be a beast.
The problem, Gio, is they have counters to the counters to the counters. And they set it up like that, which is what makes it so hard to see.
Hey,
I think really quick, Jeff,
with
Pikel and with Coach Painter, both those guys, and Coach Pikel, I think has become this as the success has grown, but you become so much more confident in yourself as a coach and comfortable in your own skin to say, this is the type of player that I need to win. And I think Coach Paint has really found that. It's pretty amazing that other than Tom Izzo, he's now the second longest tenured coach and has been in the league since 2005. And that's pretty wild that he is approaching 20 years of coaching in the Big Ten. But I think that he is as confident in what he needs and what he does as he's ever been in his coaching career. And that's why he gets guys that fit, and that's why he wins.
Speaking of players that fit, I'm really excited to watch Iowa this season. I think it's a team that obviously lost a lottery pick in Keegan Murray, but Kris Murray, his twin brother, is back and great shooter, but also could potentially do more than just show that 3-point shot. Gio, what are you expecting to see from this Iowa team, specifically with Murray?
Yeah, I think the thing about Keegan Murray is, he never really forced shots. Like everything was always within the offense. Like I don't think Iowa is going to obviously Keegan Murray was an amazing basketball player. Like no one here can deny that. But in terms of the way he was getting his points, it was always in the offense. I think Kris Murray is going to fit into a similar role. I don't think it'll be the same at all, and no one should expect him to be the same. But you look at the guys around him too, the McCaffrey brothers, Perkins, Ulis. These are all guys who have played in the system. They understand Iowa's offense, and Coach McCaffrey is going to get things done on the offensive end. I think they're going to still run the ball the exact same. They're going to get great shots, great looks. I don't expect their offense to look much different. It's just going to be different guys in the positions.
Rob?
I totally agree with what Geo just said. Keegan Murray scored on rim runs, offensive rebounds, the little ISO at the elbow, and it was all within. It was so easy for him. I mean, you look up first 10 minutes, it's like this dude's got 14 points, and they haven't run one play for him. It's all on simple stuff. So I think that's 100% accurate. That he is going to continue to run his stuff. I think Peyton Sanford's a kid that could really have a nice sophomore year. He didn't necessarily make shots at a high level as a freshman, but he wasn't afraid to take them. And he had a couple games where you're like, all right, this dude can really shoot. And from hearing about practice, he is a big time shooter. Patrick McCaffrey, I think is a really good player in the Big Ten. I think he's going to take a step forward. I like this team. Aaron Ulis and Tony Perkins can have nice seasons. And I think Iowa can have a really nice year as well.
Jeff, Peyton Sanford could be my favorite player in the Big Ten, potentially. I love watching his game. Consistency with shooting is going to come, I think, but he plays so hard. He's the type of player that's going to dive on the floor for loose balls. He does all of the little things. He's a smart guy. I just think he's somebody that could really be an X factor for this Iowa team.
Yeah, Fran McCaffrey loves him. Said he had an unbelievable offseason. So I think Sanford's a guy that could be a starter, but he'll probably come off the bench, but he'll see starter type minutes. I'm a big Tony Perkins guy, Patrick McCaffrey. They've just got everything. It's funny. They lost two huge players, right? Obviously, we haven't even talked about Bohannon and how he could shoot the three. They've lost two big time players, but they still bring back a ton. And I think all those guys will take a jump. Maybe not a huge jump, but I think you could have three guys, all of McCaffrey, Perkins, and Murray, averaging 14 a game. And then, again, Sanford's going to be good. The key here is going to be point guard play. And whether Aaron Ulis or the freshman who I've seen, DeSante Bowen, he came from Brewster Academy. He's talented. I could see them splitting the point guard position in the minutes, but I think that's going to determine how good Iowa is at the end of the day.
I sense a theme brewing here with a lot of these teams with the point guard play.
Yes.
that's a good tease.
And well, there you go. Well, we can keep talking about point guard play. Wisconsin, a team that again lost a great player in Johnny Davis. They lost Brad Davidson, who's as old as Jeff Goodman is, and finally no longer on the roster at Wisconsin. But what's this Wisconsin team going to look like, Geo?
Oh man, I don't know. I feel like I don't love their team right now on paper, but I think that has been said every single year. I saw some preseason rankings of them last year where they were picked 10th in the league. I really like Chucky Hepburn. I got a chance to meet him at the NIL Summit in Atlanta this past year. He's a really confident dude, really good player. I think he's going to take a big step up. And, he played really well against us last year. And that's tough as a freshman to come into the rack and play the way he did against us. So I'm really looking forward to watching them play. Obviously, he has great pieces around him as well.
Robbie, what does this Wisconsin team look like without Johnny Davis?
Offensively, that is a phenomenal question that I don't have the answer to, and I'm not sure that Greg Gard has the answer to yet. It certainly helped. They took the foreign trip to France to kind of iron some of that stuff out. I think this team goes as far as Chucky Hepburn, Tyler Wall, Steven Crowell take them. And Jordan Davis is a guy that might take a jump. It's amazing the parallels between Keegan Murray and Johnny Davis with the twin. All that stuff is crazy. And I think it's fair to say that Kris Murray is ahead of where Jordan Davis was last season easily. But, Max Klesmit, transfer from Wofford, I don't know. This is another team where you're like, I don't know. There's not – it's hard to say. Other than those three guys, Tyler Wall, Steven Crowell, Chucky Hepburn, you just haven't seen much of anybody else. So I don't know what they're going to look like. It's going to be fascinating.
They're going to play in some of the ugliest
games. You do know that. Their style of play is going to be that.
No doubt. Guaranteed.
Basketball.
Right. They're going to play there'll be some 40s. You watch. There'll be some 40s this year in Wisconsin.
Yikes. 40s, Jeff? That's
Yep.
your prediction?
Yep.
But their style of play gives them a chance in most games because they slow it down, they frustrate teams, they defend. I think they'll do those things, but I just think offensively it's a massive I don't know.
If there's anything we have confirmed during this 45 minutes, it's been we don't know a lot of things. There's a lot of question marks headed into this event. That's all going. It is, and it's the beauty of it, but also the curse of it as well. Geo, nobody knows Rutgers like you do. What are we going to see from a Geo Baker-less Rutgers team?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to see Rutgers basketball, right? You talk about ugly basketball. There's going to be some defensive ugly battles, 100%. I think that's the first thing. But obviously there's a lot of question marks around their role players and who's going to step up. But I think looking at the things that we do know, Paul Mulcahy is the returning lead assist guy in the league. Cliff Omarui, in my opinion, I think is going to get drafted first round this year as long as he handles his business. Caleb McConnell is the reigning defensive player of the year. I mean, these are three big pieces and guys who know how to win. Like at the end of the day, they have 7 scholarship guys coming back who have been to back-to-back NCAA tournaments. Coach Peichel is a great coach. They're obviously going to be playing defense. They're going to be scrappy. I'm excited to watch them play. I'm a lot higher on them, all bias included, of course, than a lot of people are. But I really like the team they have. Cam Spencer, I've seen them practice a couple of times. The kid Cam Spencer is the most competitive person I have ever met. And I've met a lot of competitive people. Coach Peichel is very high on that list. Paul Mulcahy is very high on that list. Cam Spencer tops them all by far. Like the dude genuinely gets mad when he misses 2 shots in a row. I think he's adjusting really well to Big Ten defense, and he's going to be ready to go from day one.
Well, he comes from an athletic family. Pat Spencer played basketball at Northwestern and was an all-star lacrosse player throughout college. Maryland, Robbie, what are we going to see? Kevin Willard taking over. This is a new team, weird situation last year, but can they put the pieces together pretty quickly early on?
I'm a little conflicted here with Maryland because on one end, you're like, all right, new coach, even though Kevin Willard is a really good basketball coach, they bring back some really nice pieces. Dante Scott, Hakeem Hart. I like Julian Reese. I think that he's a guy with incredible upside in this league. Donald Carey, the transfer from Georgetown, is a guy that's done it in the Big East. Jameer Young is going to have to be good at the point position. And again, you're transferring up from Charlotte. So that's a question mark. The bench is just light. Ian Martinez is an athlete. Outside of him, there just isn't really much. I think Jahari Long is a guy that transferred, came with Kevin Willard, but didn't he average a point or 2 a game? I think he didn't play a lot. What's the bench dude's name that you were selling me on last year, Jeff? For Maryland,
he's at Missouri State now. Oh man, you got me.
You forgot his name. He was so good. So with his departure,
Bobby rips on me for this one. I'll remember it.
James something, wasn't it? Is it James?
Yeah, James.
James Graham.
James Graham. I want to say James.
If James Graham was on this team, I'd be like
over
10 or higher.
Yeah, he wasn't even on the scout, Jeff. He wasn't even on the scout.
You look good. Hey, you look good in that preseason practice. Really good.
Jeff got sucked in by one great day for James Graham. I worry about the bench, though, but there are some pieces. I think they'll compete, and I think they'll beat some good people in the league this year.
Gio just said he wasn't on the scouting report. Oh, my goodness. Speaking of scouting reports, Jeff, Penn State, who's on their scouting report? What can we expect with Shrewsbury this year?
Yeah, I mean, he's got Pickett back. Lundy's back. He adds a couple transfers, mid-major transfers that you don't know how good they're going to be. I mean, Cameron Winter from Drexel and Andrew Funk from Bucknell. They put up numbers, but it'll be interesting to see. I mean, obviously you're playing for years 3 and 4 here. If Penn State can get in the top, 9, I think in the Big Ten this year, they're doing a hell of a job. And then you're putting yourself in a situation where you can get some momentum going, because they certainly had it a few years ago before the pandemic hit. And then obviously with everything that happened with Pat Chambers getting fired, that kind of took some of it away. Shrewsbury is he's great. I mean, he's going to do a good job. Penn State is a lot like Rutgers to me without the home court advantage, right? That's the difference. Rutgers. Am I wrong, Gio?
It's a really quiet place to play in.
Right.
Really
Nobody. Yeah, they don't. I mean, it's football. It's all football. Where at least you guys have a home court advantage. Penn State does not. Right. It's probably one of the tougher jobs in the league because, again, I don't know how much it. The interesting thing nowadays, guys, is and I know this wasn't something that was on the rundown that we want to talk about, but NIL, how much it helps or hurts you as you don't have to be a great recruiter anymore necessarily. Like, I'll still say this, Mike Woodson, I don't think he's the most relentless recruiter in the world, but what does Mike Woodson have right now in Indiana? He has NIL and he can sell the NBA. Those are the two most important things right now to be able to get kids.
For sure.
Well, and then you have the fact that college basketball is the NBA free agency with no salary cap. So literally you have trades happening essentially during the year. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But that's a fabulous point. You don't have to be a dog in recruiting anymore. You
Gotta
can just
have NIL though.
You gotta have some money. Exactly.
Big bank
Big
wins.
bank.
Right.
All right, let's get into a little around the horn action, shall we? Some league superlatives. We're going to kind of go somewhat of a rapid fire situation here, starting with you, Geo. Who is the biggest X factor in the league this year for you?
I think it's Xavier Johnson, right? I think he's going to be a super important part of Indiana, right? We already know what Trayce Jackson-Davis can do. We already know what Race Thompson can do. For them to live up to that preseason hype, I think he needs to take that step up as one of the top 3 point guards in the league, right? Top 2, maybe. I think they're going to go as he goes.
Like that, Robbie?
I could go Chris Murray, but I feel like he's pretty I'm going to go Justice Sueing because his health is so up in the air. If he's healthy and he's good, then I think Ohio State is going to have a pretty nice year.
Jeff?
Braden Smith, Purdue's freshman point guard. If he's good, they could be fantastic. They could be really good.
Jeff is flip-flopping out here.
No, I'm saying he's going to be the X factor. I'm not.
I heard you.
Painter's comparison, and again, you guys, he's a little older, but you may know who he is because he was an NBA head coach. Scott Skiles is who he compares him to.
Plymouth, Indiana, baby.
That's right. That's right. Very true. So I think Braden Smith's going to be key for them. And again, he could take them to where they're an 8th place team if he's not really that good this year, to where they could finish 2nd in the league if he's really good.
Well, we can stick with point guards. Want to go around and get your thoughts on who the top 3 point guards in this league are? Let's go snake version. Jeff, start with you.
Where's my list here? I'm going to go Xavier Johnson for
list.
sure. Well, Xavier Johnson for sure is number 1. I don't think there's any question in my mind. He's number 1 in the league, right? We are doing point guards, right?
We're doing point guards.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. Gio's laughing at me here.
Yeah, because he hates your pick. That's why.
What do you mean? All I got is 1 pick so far. I'm gonna go Chucky Hepburn, number 2. And I know he's not there yet. I get it. He's not there yet. I think he'll be there at the end of the year, and I think he's got a lot on his plate. I will go him number 2, and then I'll go AJ Hoggard number 3.
Robbie.
I'm going Xavier Johnson 1 as well. I'm combining Tyson Walker and AJ Hoggard because they split the position.
It's illegal.
All right, they're number 2, and I went Paul Mulcahy 3 with Chucky Hepburn like a 3B.
Yeah.
There are no rules do not apply to Robbie Hummel.
Rules for the point guard list.
I got Paul at number 1. I think he's going to have multiple double doubles this year. I've played with him.
That's why you're killing me. That's why you're killing me.
Yeah,
I didn't put him in my top 3.
I
think it's egregious you didn't have him in the top 3. Honestly,
that's probably true.
Are we counting Pickett as a point guard? Are we counting
Jeff
Pickett?
He wanted to put you up for the power forward of the year last year too. I think.
I don't know what Pickett's not really a point, but is he going to play the point?
I mean, he brought it up a lot last year.
I'm saying,
he's a combo at most. Yeah. He's a scorer.
All
right, so if we're not counting Pickett, then I got Xavier Johnson, and then I got Hepburn at number 3.
All right, there you have it. Toughest trap game in the non-conference for Big Ten teams. Robbie Hummel is so excited to give his answer. We're going to let him start.
All right, I did a deep dive of the schedules, and I went into the Penn State schedule, and I saw that on November 17th they play Furman. And it's the game directly after they play Butler, which obviously Coach Shrewsbury has a history of being an assistant there on the teams who won the national championship. Furman Paladins are good. They were a second away from making the NCAA tournament. Half-court shot by David Jean-Baptiste sent Chattanooga. Mike Bothwell and Jalen Slauson can hoop. Furman Paladins are the trap game for Penn State.
You've heard it here first. Jeff, who you got?
I'm gonna have to borrow one from Rob. I'm looking right now, and I would say Maine against Nebraska, Omaha against Nebraska, Arkansas Pine Bluff against Nebraska. Anything else we got? The battle in the vault in Lincoln, either Drake or Mississippi State. Hey, here's one, December 20th. I don't know if they have to play Oklahoma Wesleyan plays Concordia. Forget it. Maybe they play Queens University.
Okay,
So
move
I would
on.
say every
Megan.
game.
One, Geo Baker, who you got?
He took a bailout. He started saying Nebraska. I'm going with Temple for Rutgers. Caleb Battle is number one. He's a New Jersey kid, really tough scorer. They were picked top five. They were picked top five preseasons to finish in the American. Also for Rutgers, it's their first road test. It's a neutral site game. Those games suck. I hate neutral site games. There's like no real crowd for either side.
There.
It just feels weird. So that's going to be tough for them. And obviously Rutgers, has a lot of role players that, a lot of question marks around it. So it's going to be their first real road test.
Who will be the best player in the Big Ten? Geo.
Trace Jackson Davis. I think I don't, Hunter Dickinson maybe could give him a run for his money, but I think looking at, the numbers that he put up last year, the hype around him coming back, I think he's on a mission this year. I do. I think that's the reason he came back is to, leave his imprint. So I definitely pick Trace Jackson Davis for sure.
Robbie.
I don't know if he'll be the best player because I think Hunter Dickinson could very well be that, but I think winning matters so much. So, since I picked Indiana to win the league in the preseason, I'm going to go Trace Jackson Davis as well. And that's not a slight to him because I think he's going to have a really good year. But you could have picked Hunter Dickinson as well, and I would say I'm with it. But because I had Indiana, I'm going with Trace.
Yeah, best player on the best team. That's what I generally do, and I think it'll be Trace. I think Hunter's numbers will be better, but again, to me, winning matters. That's the separator there.
I would go with Hunter, simply most valuable player to a team. And Hunter brings the most value to his team, in my opinion, more than Trace Jackson Davis does, but we'll see how it plays down the stretch. Power rankings. It's now time for the grand reveal.
Yeah.
We'll start with number 14 because we got to give the people what they want, keep them on the edge of their seat so they'll stay and watch who your number one is. So everyone get their list out. You guys probably already have them in front of you. That was an unnecessary comment to make.
Prepared.
All right. 14, who you have, Geo?
I got Nebraska. I don't really have much to say.
Everyone has Nebraska, right? Okay.
Nebraska.
Yeah.
13.
A lot of trap games out there for them, according to Jeff.
13, Jeff.
Going with Minnesota.
Everyone have Minnesota for 13?
I've got Northwestern at 13.
I got Northwestern as well.
Okay.
12.
I got them at 12.
12.
I've got the Golden Gophers for me at 12.
Me as well. Yeah.
So those are the bottom three. Clear bottom tier is Northwestern, Minnesota, and Nebraska.
Yeah.
11.
I have Rutgers.
Oh,
Wow.
man.
I
Geo,
did.
don't take
Oh,
this.
man. Jeff, first show. Damn.
They lost you. What do you mean? It just shows the importance of Geo Baker. And
Hey,
Rob
that's
Hummel Jr.
the ultimate respect, my dog,
That's
at your
right.
school.
I got Penn State. You're not even going to give them over Penn State.
I think there's a 4-team tier there that's very hard to
I can't wait till the fans at the rack hear this. They are going to murder you.
Yo,
Murder you.
I'm going to get them on you, so I'm retweeting this. Yo, clip that.
Yeah, clip that up. Clip it up.
Now you're going to have the Rutgers fans coming for you as well.
It's
Jeff.
unbelievable.
You know how to get in Jersey,
Wait,
too.
honestly, Jeff, you think that Maryland's going to be better than Rutgers?
I have Maryland at 10.
Right.
They're close. All these next 3 or 4 teams are close.
Right. 9.
I've got Maryland at 11.
Yeah, Maryland at 11. Who do you have at 9?
I've got Penn State at 10. I've got Rutgers at 9.
Rutgers at 9.
I
Geo.
got Maryland at 10. I got Wisconsin at 9.
I got Penn State at 9. I got Wisconsin at 8.
I have the Badgers 8 as well.
I have Ohio State at 8.
Ooh.
Oh.
So he's got Rutgers in the top 7.
Yes, he
I got
does.
Rutgers at 2.
Is Rutgers your number 7?
Rutgers is not my number 7. Michigan.
See, he's got him all the way up there. Look at this.
Michigan State
Homerism.
at 7.
my number 7. I got insider information, man.
That's true. He does.
Yeah.
I've got the Buckeyes number 7, Ohio State.
I have Purdue at 7.
Wow. Wow, really?
Point
Jeff's
guard,
pick
man.
sucks tonight.
Point guard. It's about
Big on the point guard. It's a big
I'm
league.
huge on the
It's
point
big on the
guards,
point
dude.
guards.
huge.
Man. All right. 6.
I'm going with the. Or go ahead, Gio. Sorry,
I have Rutgers at 6.
I've got the Michigan
Homer.
Wolverines. Michigan Wolverines at 6.
I got Michigan State at 6.
Wow. Okay. 5. Goodman.
Michigan at 5.
I've got Michigan State.
Okay.
I have Michigan.
4.
Ohio State.
I'm going with the Iowa Hawkeyes.
I have Purdue.
3.
Illinois.
I've got Purdue.
I got Iowa.
You guys cannot have more different power rankings. We're gonna have to put this up. My goodness. Number 2.
That's how you know how hard it
I mean,
is.
literally,
It's crazy.
2nd through 9th is like
Crazy.
it could be any order. You could scramble the teams and throw them in a hat and pull them out, and it would make sense. It could be anything.
Yeah.
All right. Number 2. Geo.
I got Indiana.
Oh, I love mixing it up.
I'm throwing shots.
I got Iowa too.
Gio's still thinking about the Ron Harper celebration a la Sam Cassell at Assembly Hall last year. I'm going with Illinois at 2.
So that means number 1, Geo.
I have Illinois.
Illinois. Okay.
I have my 50 grand going to Indiana. 50 grand in the number 1 spot.
I think Jeff's picks have really sucked tonight, but I'm going to go with him on this one. I go Indiana as well.
Wow, generous. Alrighty, there you have it, guys. Our power rankings. This is your Field of 68 After Dark Big Ten preview show. Forget what else I'm supposed to say as we sign off. Make sure you look at the almanac. That's going to be big for you. It's the best guide for college basketball. More than 1,000 pages. It feels like Jeff Goodman practically ran out of ink and a printer printing this out, but it is just the most detailed access you're going to want to college basketball. The link is below us on our YouTube page, $19.99. Make sure you get it. Make sure you subscribe to us. Make sure you check out our shop, field68.shop. Get yourself some merch. Are we going to have to make a t-shirt about Robbie Hummel's vertical?
Yes, absolutely. The 19.5 vert has to go.
How many dunks does Jeff have in his life? 0.
picture
So
of
I don't give a
Hummel's
shit
face.
about my vertical at this age.
Actually, we'll have a picture of Hummel swinging a golf club because that's all he does with his vert underneath.
Perfect.
That's
You
19
have the
inches in the air.
design ready to
I would
go.
get it.
This is the Field of 68
Thanks,
After
Gio.
Dark Media Network, powered by Bet Rivers. Our next show is Monday. We are previewing the